mention this is the constant harassment to the Coyotes that's actually like somewhat legitimate is like, okay, the cap space isn't going up because of the Coyotes. They don't turn a profit. Well, they haven't turned a profit for 25 years. They have taken out the max on what they can receive from the league. And remember, 4 teams in this league make up like 25% of the profits of the league. Okay? Like, first of all, let's be transparent here. I don't think the cap space is not going up because the Coyotes aren't turning a profit. But something that people fail to address with the lack of cap space is like anytime the cap goes up, people just think that's, oh, like, let's say there's 32 teams, cap space goes up $1 million. That's $32 million that you can bring into the league. Well, the thing is that there's only maybe 10 or 15 teams that actually spend to the cap, right? So that cap space that goes up isn't $32 million. It's $15 million. But what's interesting about the Coyotes that people like to harp on, like, oh, you're the reason the cap space is so bad. But the Coyotes have taken on almost $10 million in bad contracts. And when we're talking like apples to apples here of like cap space not going up, let's say it does go up $1 million and you get an extra $15 million total of the people that will spend up to the cap, the Coyotes are taking on almost as much in bad contracts as they are giving, like if that argument is true, that they're giving away from the cap space not going up. And it was just something I've been needing to say because I thought about it like a week or two ago, and I'm just like, I need to say this, damn it, because so many people don't think about this. Like, obviously, I'm not saying that it's great to see a bottom feeder team like take on contracts just to stay afloat. Like, that's not great. We saw that with the Coyotes in like 2014, 2015 when they were below the cap floor and they were taking on bad contracts to get to the floor so that they didn't have to spend as much. But, like, there is an ecosystem there that people are just not even recognizing and not even acknowledging. Yeah, you guys don't have to comment, but I was thinking about this, like, sometime last week, and I'm just like, dude, like, even if we are a problem, we're also contributing to, like, the ecosystem to help out teams that are against the cap ceiling.
Swear to God, if you do not, whatever gods, all the gods, sure. I swear to God, if you do not put this as a side segment called like Richard's Soapbox, I will quit the podcast. That was phenomenal. That was
really
great.
well. That was really well said. When you said that you don't have to comment, I'm like, thank God, because you already like. I'm going to sound like an idiot if I say something next. That's a good point, though. I never quite thought of it that way.
Yeah.
One thing I always thought would be funny is if you could trade cap space for a year. You know, like the Yotes have like
that'd be amazing. Yeah,
the Yotes have like 10 million in cap space, and like you know they send 5 of it to like the Flames who are trying to like bring in talent at the deadline kind of thing.
Yeah,
pay out the ass for it, but
yeah, I mean,
I don't know.
All
I
these
think
transactions
that would be practical.
Cash.
I think that would be hilarious. Yeah, exactly. Yes, it would be hilarious, but it would be not practical.
So something I also wanted to bring up, because I hear this from a lot of Canadians, is like, oh, we need to move to a luxury tax system like in the MLB. But the problem is like, the numbers I just said are so important. 4 teams make up 25% of the revenues in the NHL. 4 teams. Like, those teams that are going to benefit to the luxury cap are 4 teams. And we see how bad and apparent this is in the MLB. I think it's the Dodgers are spending $230 million, whereas like the Orioles are spending $20 million. That's 10 times the cap space or the cap that's being used. Like 10 times. Like, I get that like luxury tax would help everybody, but like there's a reason why like Bettman does it the way he does. He wants transparency where you see the Flames are like, the fans are like, all right, we have hope that we can make it deep and we can win a Stanley Cup. Whether you're the Florida Panthers, right? We have hope that we can make it deep and win a Stanley Cup. Like, if you're going up against the LA Dodgers, right, and you're the Baltimore Orioles, there's no way. You're like, we're going to get blown the F out. Like, that's why, like, I feel like the hard cap is actually a really, really good thing. I think that it does add that, I forget the word, not transparency.
The parity? Are you looking for
Yeah,
league
parity. Like it adds a really
Yeah.
good parity where like you're not seeing just absolute wagons just steamroll their way through to a championship just by pure money. It's like I feel like that's really good for helping. I don't know.
Well, it also helps, like I said, balance it for small markets. I'm someone that when the MLB, I wanted them to have, oh, there needs to be a cap floors. That way everyone has to try. I'm like, what about a cap ceiling? Because the D-backs cannot afford $220 million to like the Mets or the Dodgers or someone else can afford to spend because we are still a smaller market when it comes to baseball. So it's like, I feel like the hard cap is there for a reason and it should be there. But you also notice the only people that want a luxury tax system are the people that are fans of some of those big franchises that would benefit the most from it. And I had another point that I just remembered and forgot again. So Auddie, if you got something to add on here.
I was gonna say that's why the Blue Jays are so perpetually mediocre because they are just known for being cheap. You know, they had a couple good
Mhm.
runs in 16 and 17, or no, 15 and 16.
Yeah.
But either way, it's like, now all of a sudden the Blue Jays are starting to spend. It's like, oh wow, like what's going on here? Like we got some like what's going on here? Like Rogers is like, oh wow, we can spend on the Blue Jays now.
Yeah.
But yeah, I just don't think that a luxury tax would ever really work in hockey. You would just have so many teams that would just continue to be crap and like, teams that don't make a whole lot of money that are just never going to spend.
Yep.
Right. And then you'll have those big four teams that continue to always overspend and pay out the rear end for everything.
Yep.
And they'll just run the league. There's no parity that way. That's why the hard cap is there for a reason. So anybody who says that they want otherwise is wrong. You're wrong. That's all I have to say.
Richie, I think I remember my point real quick, but
Mhm.
so how relatively common were dynasties way before there was any sort of salary cap in hockey? I can think of at least a handful off the top of my head. Yet, in the salary cap era, they had to change the definition of a dynasty to 3 and 5 years for the Blackhawks to qualify, and
Mhm.
Tampa Bay is the closest we've gotten to the actual 3 and 4 years dynasty.
Yeah.
The cap is a big reason why, because hey, you're really good for a couple of years, you built your team the right way through the draft, salaries keep going up. Oh, you won a cup, great. Now you're going to have to cut a couple of guys because you got a couple expiring contracts. You want to keep them. They're going to need a pay raise. So your team is still going to be good, but
Yeah.
not as overpowered. Like you can't just, like in baseball, well, Toronto, I can afford $225 million because we have so much in revenue. Oakland for baseball, but we'll use Arizona as the punching bag for hockey. That's what it always is. Well, our market cap, we can only really afford to spend $50 million, essentially.
I actually have a really good system that I think would really help out with everybody. I don't know how easy this would be to implement, but I think one of the biggest flaws with a hard cap system is the taxes, right? It's something that Biz harps on. It's a funny joke, but it's true. Like Tampa Bay gets to afford to make an amazing team because they can spend less on players because of state taxes and federal taxes and stuff. I would like to see a system. This is just like fantasy land here, where it looks at the percentage of all those numbers, and then you can get a little bit more cap space because of whatever your tax situation is in your market. So I think that would really help out, and that would make the playing field pretty fair. If you want to make that argument for like consistency and like transparency, or not transparency, parity. I keep wanting to say transparency. For parity in the league, like give a little bit more cap space to the teams that pay a little bit more in taxes to those players, and that allows a little bit of a more consistent. I don't know, a little bit more consistency there.
I think
Like that
Auddie can
idea.
probably confirm this. That would probably greatly help a lot of Canadian
Yep.
Every
teams. Because
single
how many
Canadian
times
market.
Yep.
they lose players because this might be hyperbole. Correct me if I'm wrong, but it's like what, somewhere around 50% in terms of like taxes from your salary over in Canada.
Did you say 15?
50.
I don't think it's that much,
I
but
think-
it's like
Quebec is the
35?
worst. Yeah, Quebec is the worst, and it's like somewhere but just shy of 40%.
yeah, I want to say like generally like 35, which
So it's like a lot of Canadian markets can keep their players because we'll pay you the exact same amount you'd be getting in take home in Tampa and Columbus, Arizona.
Right,
Yeah.
exactly. Yeah, that would like completely level the playing ground, and then there would be no, oh well, I want to go here because I'm going to make more money here, like because it's a tax-free state or whatever, right? I don't
Yeah.
really know how many of those
There
exist,
is.
and
Yeah.
but like yeah, that would level things out. Like that's a big reason why a lot of people leave Canadian markets, right? That's why it's
Yep.
so crazy to see a Jonathan Huberdeau signing, and that's why the Flames also have to give him $10.5 million so he can make whatever percentage that he's actually going to make in that contract, right? So
Yep.
yeah, it's interesting, and actually something that I don't know the whole backstory or how it really works, but his contract is very signing bonus driven.
Mm-hmm.
So it's like pretty much buyout proof, but that's like they had to work that in, like, and you get taxed less for your signing bonus than you do a salary. So like that's why you see a lot of teams in Canada give out very signing bonus heavy contracts.
Well,
Like
you
I
can
think Mitch
also
Marner
hide-
makes
You can also hide
Yeah,
the money
Mitch
really easy too.
right, which is it's kind of like a loophole in the Canadian like tax system or whatever.
Yeah.
But like Mitch Marner, another example, makes like a boatload of signing bonus on his contract. I think
Yep.
I can't remember how much he makes in actual salary, but it's very minimal. So like that's why you'll see a lot of that in Canada too.
Yeah. Yeah. Signing bonuses, what you can do is you can immediately just toss it into like stock markets and stuff, and then you don't have to pay taxes until you pull it out.
Right, exactly. Yeah.
Yeah.
So it helps the team, it helps the player, and makes it buyout proof.
Yeah. I mean, you still could buy the contract out, but you're essentially paying them the entirety of anyway. It's
Yeah,
also
everybody's
another
like, why don't we
reason
just buy
players
out?
get traded after signing
Yeah.
bonuses are paid because
Yeah.
Arizona, I don't want to pay Phil Kessel's $7 million signing bonus. We'll acquire
You
him
only
after
got to
that's
pay him $1
paid.
million. Yeah.
Yep.
Yeah. It's funny how that works, eh?